Hi, I'm Kathy Meis, founder of Publish, and I'm here to talk to you about how to position your book for success right from the start. I'm going to show you how to conduct your own book positioning study. For those of you who like giveaways, if you tweet something you during this session and include at Publish Me during this live session in your tweet, you'll be entered into our drawing for 3 months of Publish for free. And we've also got a discount running to celebrate this amazing Indie Author Fringe conference that the Alliance of Independent Authors coordinates each year. I'll give you that discount code at the last slide, and it's on my speaker page and gives you access to Publish, the Publish platform, for only $79 for the entire year. So let's get started. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I am the founder of Publish, and Publish is the world's first complete publishing platform with integrated marketing, branding, and discoverability features. So authors can write, publish, promote, distribute, sell, and track their work all from their Publish dashboard. So I've been in the media and publishing industry for more than 25 years and worked for such iconic brands as CBS and Forbes. I've been a professional editor for that long and a journalist and a ghostwriter of nonfiction business books as well. So I love to talk about topics like marketing, publishing, and author brand building in the digital age. And I'm especially excited to talk to you about your own positioning study because I feel that this is so crucial for your success as an author. So we're going to cover quite a bit of ground really quickly today. I have created a resource for you. You can see the link at the bottom, the Publish Lead Pages Book Positioning Study template. I'll give you that URL again at the end. Because I have to cover this information pretty quickly, I wanted to give you something that you could download to remember the different elements of a great book positioning study. So today we're going to talk about what a book positioning study is, why it's important for you to position your book and conduct your own positioning study even before you launch your book. And we're going to talk about all the elements that are included in a book, as well as how to conduct the research to fill each of those elements out and do the kind of research you need to really create a great book positioning study. And then we've got the link to the free resource. So first of all, what is a book positioning study? So this is a really an in-depth study of your book as an information and or entertainment product. Book fits into today's crowded, increasingly online book marketplace. So the manuscript, of course, is a very important part of your book product. But conducting your own book positioning study is only going to compel you to put your publisher's hat on. So as authors, we get in our creative mode. We work very hard to create a great story. And then we need to, in order to be successful as a self-published author, put on our publisher's hat. And that's what you do when you go into book positioning study mode. It's going to make sure that you can be the best publisher of your own work by producing a great information or entertainment product and position that product competitively for maximum exposure and sales. And it is crucial for your success. By conducting your own book positioning study, you're going to uncover a boatload of information about the marketplace for your book. And that information is also going to inform all of the decisions that you make about your book product. So you're going to articulate your creative intentions and your business goals, which is a very important piece of the study. You're going to describe your book like a copywriter would. So again, this is a very different skill set than writing a story, writing as a copywriter. So the copy that will sell your book and market your book to the right readership. You're going to define your readership, like who is this book a great fit for? Who is going to be delighted by writing? And then you're going to research your comp titles. You're going to understand your differentiators. Consider cover ideas, which is very important because the cover is a very, very important piece of metadata. It's aesthetics and it's a marketing piece, but it's also a piece of metadata. So computers use that to understand things about your book. You're going to outline book details. A lot of times when I work with self-published authors, they haven't really researched the average page count in their genre or the typical trim size for their genre. They're not quite sure which formats they need to be in. their distribution channels they haven't considered, they haven't thought about if their book is part of a series. So we're going to look at all those details in our study and then cover the best metadata for your book. So title, subtitle, series title, categories, genre, keywords, all of those things are called metadata. And metadata is the data or information about your book that you input into the computer fields when you upload your book to different websites, but it's also used in a variety of other places, like when you input information into to get your ISBNs, or you input information into a computer to even apply for a contest. So metadata is data about your book, but in a world where algorithms and computers run the back end of the marketplace, you really need to understand what the best metadata is for your book. So that is what a book positioning study is. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about why it's important. So this sets you up to be a successful publisher of your own work. And that is really important. So being the publisher of your own work is truly an entrepreneurial endeavor. You know, being the writer, the author, is a very creative endeavor. So when you put on your publisher hat, you're undertaking an entrepreneurial endeavor. And as an entrepreneur myself, I can tell you that success is in the execution. So you really you have to understand your market when you are an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneurial publisher of your own work, you really want to set yourself up for success by understanding the marketplace and where your book fits in it. Positioning your book also for maximum discoverability, exposure, and sales is really important. There have never been, in the history of mankind, more books being published every day. So the opportunity is immense, but the competition is fierce. So you want to make sure that you have the information to have maximum discoverability, exposure, and then sales for you and your book. And you're going to also, during the study, learn a lot about current marketplace trends that can very much impact your book. One example of that that I find, people have gotten to the point where they've joked about it, but, girl on a train. So book titles suddenly had the word girl in it. And it seemed like if you had the word girl in it, you were going to be a top selling book. There are millions of trends like that happening in every genre all the time, and you need to keep yourself current on that. And during a positioning study, you're going to dive deep into current marketplace trends. Next, it's going to teach you about reader expectations in your genre. So as authors, we have a story to tell, but as a publisher, you need to think about how the reader is going to see that story. And so understanding reader expectations in your genre is very important. One, for example, would be suspense. So if you've done a very character-driven suspense novel, that's fine, but understand that there's a certain segment that's really going to want you to come out of the gate strong with a lot. Or if you've written a YA novel, for example, you might really need to study the voice. There's a very strong first-person voice are very popular in YA fiction. So every genre has certain reader expectations, and while you may break those later in your career, it's good to understand what they are. And if you're going to break the rules of reader expectation, understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Then, and don't just do it out of naivete is really the point. And then it's going to inform your decisions throughout the publishing process. And this is going to save you time and money on mistakes, which I see all the time. Perfect example is a cover gets done and the author mentions that it's the first in a series. And as a result, that has not been signaled on the cover. And in certain genres, having the fact that a book is in a series is crucial, because some readers will not pick up a book if they don't want to get attached to a character and not have it be part of a series. So if your book cover doesn't indicate that it's the first book in a series, and it's a missed opportunity. You're going to go back and you're going to have to fix that on your cover. It's going to cost you time and money. These types of things happen all the time to new authors who are just learning the marketplace. So stopping before you launch, before you invest money and time into certain aspects of the publishing journey, you want to do this positioning study, inform yourself so you don't make those mistakes. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a lot of your questions answered. So here are the 10 elements of a book positioning study. And what I'm going to do is just take you through the first 4, and we're going to discuss it. And then for the middle section here, we're going to jump online, and we're going to actually do some of the research, and I'll show you, information online for you to find a lot of these things. So the first one is, of course, to articulate your creative intentions and your professional goals. And I think what's really important here is not to skip this step, because a lot of people do. They just want to write a book, they want to get it published, and they don't know exactly why they may have a sense of why they're doing it creatively, but they don't have a sense of the professional goals. But you really should have a very strong sense of your creative intentions and your professional goals before you launch your book. So let me just talk a little bit about what a nonfiction creative intention might look like in its first form, and what a fiction creative intention might look like. So you may say, if you're a career counselor who decides to write a nonfiction book, that you have a creative intention to share with recent college graduates my professional expertise as a career counselor. So that's a very valid creative intention for a nonfiction book. For a fiction writer, the creative intention might be, if they were a mystery writer, to write a mystery novel with believable characters and surprising plot twists that will delight my readers. So something about, what is it you want to do creatively with this book, and what do you want to achieve? And maybe something you want to learn, or something you want to explore as a skill as a writer. But it's important to write those down. And then with professional goals, you want to do something like launch your first nonfiction book. Maybe it's about retirement. So you want to launch that book about retirement planning in July 2017, and use the book to secure 3 $1,500 paid speaking engagements by the end of 2017. So you're defining the fact that the goal for the book is to use it to secure speaking engagements. And this is really crucial for nonfiction writers to understand how the book is going to work for their brand and for their professional and their income. And for fiction writers, I believe it's just as important. They're just different types of goals. For example, if you're a first-time author, reviews are almost as important as sales in the beginning, just to build that social proof. So you want to maybe say to yourself, one of your professional goals for book 1 would be to secure 10 editorial reviews before your launch date on May 31st, 2017, and have 85 reader reviews posted on Amazon within 2 weeks of your launch. So that's a very valid professional goal. You'll notice that it's qualified by date, and it's quantified as well. So you want to get as specific as you can in your professional goals and what you hope to achieve around sales, around reviews, around awards, around downloads, around visibility, all of those things. So do write those down, because this document is going to be a living document, this positioning study that you do, and you're going to come back to it, and you're going to see if you achieve them. Hold yourself accountable. Then 2, you're going to write a working synopsis. And as I mentioned, it's important to write a synopsis and to think of yourself in this role. Again, this is the publisher side of marketing, where you're the copywriter. So the copy that you write for a synopsis has to engage the reader and compel them to really take action. So either you want them to go for the purchase, or you want them to at least open the sample of your book at an online retailer. It's very important for you to just get down something in the beginning, but undoubtedly, by the time you finish your positioning study and you look at other books and the synopses that they have, you will start to refine that, and you'll see that telling the entire story, recapping it, isn't really the purpose of the synopsis. It's more to give a feel, to tease, to draw in emotionally a reader. So again, a very different skill set. So you want to write a working synopsis at the beginning and go back and refine it at the end of your study after you've looked at a bunch of books. The next one is to describe your book's core and secondary audiences. Now, what I find is that very often people tend to say, well, I think men will like it, but I think women will like it too. I think a lot of people will like it. So that is not describing an audience. That's just very general. And in any marketing endeavor, the more specific you can be about defining the audience who will be delighted by your work, the more successful you will be. So as an entrepreneur, you're looking for testimonials on your product. And as an author, you're looking for great reviews. Well, if you give, your horror book to someone who likes, Christian romance, you're not probably going to delight that person. So you want to get your book in front of the people who will be delighted by your work, and thus generate the type of reviews that are really going to lead to the type of social proof you need on your product page to get other people to say, oh, I'll read this, I'll try this. So it's very important to define your primary audience. And as you go, as you expand and you learn more, you probably will often have a secondary audience. But let me give you a couple of examples of what maybe a nonfiction audience description might look like. And this is just at a very general high level, and as specific as you can get, do that. But for that career book that we talked about, for example, you might say a 35 to 50-year-old mid-career college-educated professional who aspires to the C-suite or executive positions and is looking for a specific framework to get there. So now you're talking about an age group, you're talking about education level, you're talking about mid-career, you're talking about aspirations, and that's very, very important to be, as descriptive as you can in outlining who your target audience is. Let's talk about, say, for a romance book. So the fiction audience description for contemporary romance, you might say a female reader between the age of 30 and 54 years old. That's just a stat that I pulled from Romance Writers of America that has great information for its audience on romance audiences. But 30 to 54 years old who buys at least one romance book a month and likes a strong female witty protagonist, because that's the kind of character you're writing. So you can see again, and this description, by the time you do research in your genre for the book positioning study, you will get more specific, and you'll have perhaps 3 to 4 scenarios or personas that you're going to outline specifically of the types of people who would read your book. And then you would say to yourself, well, where do these people hang out? And you can do some research there. But again, defining that audience right from the start and what you know, and then going back and refining it is part of the book. So next, you're going to outline your book's top differentiators. And I think this is really key for you to be able to articulate what it is that makes your book different than the other books in your genre. And there's 1,000 different, it might be your writing style, it might be the types of characters you create, the type of plot, the setting, the pace. There's lots of different ways you can differentiate your book from others. And one great way that I'm going to show you when we go into the live research part of this training is how to read reviews, both editorial reviews and reader reviews, and kind of find out what the differentiators were for other books and then what the weak points were in other books. So you can actually use the book positioning study as a way to strengthen your manuscript and learn as a writer about what delights and frustrates readers in your genre. So it's really not just about, it will actually take you back 9 times out of 10 to your manuscript with a new set of glasses on and a new way of looking at your manuscript, which is great and will only strengthen your manuscript. So, just to mention something that might be a nonfiction differentiator, it might be a unique framework that you provide in your book, or the credentials you bring to the topic, the simplicity of your approach, or the breadth of your research. So both nonfiction and fiction, you can find those differentiators, and it's important that you do. And again, your research will only help you refine these differentiators, but put them down, what you know, and then go back and refine after you do your research. So now we're going to jump online, and hopefully I'm going to be able to do this rather smoothly. So I've got pulled up Amazon, which is a great place for you to do some research, and we're going to look at the next few things here, a lot about your categories, and we're going to study a product page. I just one of the tools I use when I do positioning studies for authors is I go to the New York Times or the USA Today bestseller list, and of course A Man Called Uva is one of the best-selling books in the world right now. And what I liked about choosing this as our way to study was that it's just a general fiction book. So, not easily categorized. The USA Today bestseller list described it as a grumpy man finds his solitary world shattered when a young family moves in next door. So not easily fit into any category. So I thought this would be a fun one for us to study. And before I jump to the product page for this book, I wanted to just show you over here on the left, one of the things that you're going to want to study is your category. And you can see here, there are many, many categories that are used online to create virtual bookshelves for books. And you need to really understand what the categories are that your book could fit into. And also, and it'll be interesting to see, what this book fits into, where they placed it, but also that there are lots of subcategories. So let's just go to mystery thriller. You can see there's subcategories here. So when we get a little deeper into the study, we're going to talk about category strings. So you literally start at the top, and then you go down to granular as you can in that category. And studying the comparable titles in your genre is going to teach you a lot about the positioning of your book in these categories. So let's go visit A Man Called Uva. All right, we are now on the product page for this book, and we're going to start to take notes in our positioning study of everything we learn by studying this book. And so my assumption is here, for purposes of this study, is that you have written a book that is similar to this. You think your book is similar to A Man Called Uva, and you are going to study this as a comparable title. Now, the first thing I want you to notice that we have a title here, and we have a colon, and then we have the word a novel. So on most online sites, and definitely on Amazon, you have a title. Then if you have a subtitle, it goes after the colons. And if you have a series title, it goes in parentheses. So there is no series title, so we definitely know it's not book one of a series. But if you plan to have a series, you'll want to study titles, subtitles, and series titles in your genre. Now, what I find interesting is the word a novel is being used as a subtitle. It is actually on the book cover, which is something you need to have to make it compliant. So if you use a subtitle, it's going to need to be on your cover. And Amazon occasionally cracks down on this if you put a subtitle and it's not on your cover. So you want to you want to see in your genre what the subtitles look like, and you want to make sure that you have them on your cover. Now, the interesting thing here is that a man called Uva, you wouldn't know what that's about. So now it tells you a piece of information that this is a novel. So it's not a nonfiction book. So your subtitle can tell you something about the book. The other thing you'll see here is Frederick Bachman has an Amazon author page. That's Author Central. You'll want to also study Author Central pages. So I'm not going to take you there in the name of time, but click on the name of the authors who have written books that are like yours and study their Author Central page. And here are their reviews, 10,902 customer reviews. That's not editorial reviews. Those are starred reviews from people who purchased the book on Amazon or wrote an Amazon review. So you want to study the reviews that are 5-star. You want to look at 3-star reviews, and you want to look at 1-star reviews, because not only are you going to learn a lot about what delighted and what frustrated readers of this very popular book, but you're going to also see, if there's some top reviewers in there that you might want to contact. So there's a little piece of marketing information here as well. And then here, you want to, study the cover and take a look at imagery. You can see that this is a very interesting font they've used. So if this were a very strong comp for your book, you might want to take note of that and all the other books. What kind of color palettes, what kind of fonts are being used, and that will help inform you as you move toward your own, creating your own cover with a professional cover designer, I hope. Then you look at formats. So you can click here if the book is in a lot of different formats, and you can learn, okay, if you look at 10 books and all of them have an audio, it's probably pretty important for you to have an audio book. But if, a hardcover, this has a hardcover. If you look at 10 different books, do they all have hardcovers, or is this something you don't need to do at launch? But you're going to learn a lot about your formats and the pricing of those formats. So you want to take notes for every comparable title that you look at and study that. And then here is, again, your synopsis that you want to study. How is it that they are compelling so many people to buy this book? So this is a great, if you've written a book like this is a great template. Study it structurally. What pops out here to me is that this is very character driven. So the first paragraph is all about the curmudgeon that he is. There's only one plot line mentioned here, that this accidental flattening of Uva's mailbox happens and sets in motion some things. There's a lot of descriptor words: comical, heartwarming. And then what's also interesting is they're telling you it's a feel-good story in the spirit of, and there are 2 titles here. So you can now add these to 2 more books to study that might be comparables for your book. And then you're going to look at their product pages. So you've taken that note, you've added them to the list of books to study as comparables. Another thing that's going to tell you some possible comparables is the frequently bought together section. So here's the main book, and then bought with that is another book by the same author. But this book is one that, is not written by the same author. So you might jot that down and go back and look at that product page to see, okay, the algorithms are telling us that people frequently bought these books together. Why? What's the string there? What can I learn perhaps about the categorization, the synopsis, the sentiment of the book, the positioning of the book in a category, the keywords being used in the synopsis? You can learn a lot. So that's a great one for you to go ahead and study. And here's some more. This is frequently bought together, and this section is just items that are also bought together, so not at as high a rate. But what I find interesting, and this book comes up often here, this is nonfiction. So don't always assume that it may not be a comparable in the sense that the book is about the same subject, but it's a competitor because it is going to pop up algorithmically in similar searches because of that relationship that customers who bought this book have also bought this book. So these are great to study as well, and to kind of figure out, well, what's the relationship that these back-end databases and algorithms are seeing, that they're surfacing these books and people are buying them together. So they're hitting the same audience. There must be a reason, and you want to learn that reason because it's going to teach you about your audience. And then down here are the editorial reviews. Again, great to study them because they're going to strengthen your book, but also to see, like, okay, People Magazine, you might not be able to get a review there, but maybe the San Francisco Chronicle or the San Diego Union Tribune would give you a review. But you have to really kind of know what are the different places where your book could be reviewed. So you want to read all of these, and you want to learn from the actual review and then look at the reviewers. And then now we're going to go down to product details. And this is an area where, like I said, I see people make a lot of newbie mistakes. So if you go through 10 to 20 books, you're going to get a decent page range. You're going to kind of know the norm, the reader expectation, because most of the books in this category or subcategory are in a certain range of page count. So don't write one that is dramatically longer or shorter than that range, because you're kind of setting yourself to be outside the norm. If you do it with intention, but make sure you understand the reader expectation, and you better have a good reason for not meeting that reader expectation in your genre. The other thing that I see very often is that the product dimensions are off. So you can look here. This is a trim size, and you can also go right over to the paperback as well. You can go and you can look at all of them, all the specs for all the different formats by clicking on that. It'll take you to that product page for that. But basically, this is something you want to know. So on a physical bookshelf, you want your book to just certainly pop out with a beautiful cover, but not look like a completely different size than every other book in your category. So that's important to understand what the norms are. And there's usually a range, but you just want to be in that norm. And then the really interesting thing here is to study the categories. So as I said, this is general fiction under literature and fiction, and they have categorized it under humor and satire, humorous and contemporary fiction. And you can then bop around and look at other bestsellers by just clicking. You can also see the subcategories. So you've got literature and fiction, humor and satire, and below that, dark humor, humorous, satire. And you can click around and learn, what are the other ones. Now, this is very fluid. These are updated hourly on Amazon, but still important to see what's popping. You might want to visit this several times to see what's popping at the top of the bestseller list in humorous fiction, if that's where your book belongs. But again, you can learn a lot by just clicking around and following the algorithm base links. That's what the metadata is doing, is linking all of these books contextually for the readers who are visiting these pages. Then, they've got even a short video because it's humorous. This is very funny, like how do you pronounce uva, which I watched in order to understand how to pronounce uva. But, you can see on the author's page what type of videos they're creating. You can even go to his website and learn, follow his blog, find out how he's talking to his audience. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram, kind of see how is it that this man who's extremely successful is engaging with his audience. So you're going to learn a lot by spending some time on these. And again, you can go down here, you can click here to get to the 1-star reviews. 3-star I always like to do because they're average. You can't read them all, but read, a bunch of the 5-stars, some of the 3-star, and a few of the 1-stars to kind of get an understanding of what readers are delighted by and frustrated by in this book. So then I'm going to take you over to another place to find more comparable titles, and I'm just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to put it in. So this is called Yassiv, and this is a visualization of that data, people who purchased this book also purchased this. And let me just show you how this works. It's a great tool for finding comps. Now you can watch over here, it's pulling up, it's sorting by popularity. It's pulling up lots because this is a very well-connected book because of all of its sales. And now it's creating this visualization of the links from this. You know, where do people go? When they go here, where do they go? It's a fabulous tool. You can go. So we saw this in the purchased, and we saw this in the people always purchase, but we didn't see these two, I don't believe. And you can go down. Let's just look at this one, and you can see again keywords, okay, and categories. So this is in contemporary literary fiction. There's your price. There's an author. You can go study the author, who's the publisher, the description. You can get a lot of information here about a lot of different books that are associated or read by, or purchased by, I should say, by the same readership. So they purchased this book as well. And this is the map of how they did that. So spend a good amount of time here finding, it's a great resource for finding your comparable titles, your competitive titles, those titles you need to understand to position your book correctly in the marketplace. And you know, it's really easy. This is another Bachman book, really easy to use. You can bop all around. Now you see that's an interesting jump to me because we were talking about a humorous book, but it's a very bittersweet humorous book. So there's a lot of sadness in a man called Uva, and that's why this book, The Light Between Oceans, pops up, because it's a very sad book. So that's, to me, a very interesting thing to learn about your audiences. You know, most books have multiple themes, and so what themes are resonating, and where does that take readers on their journey? And I'll tell you how this will come back. If you really understand your comps when you go to advertise Amazon Marketing Services, you can actually put these book titles and authors in as keywords, which means that you're going to tell Amazon to display your work on those pages. You're going to have to bid to do that and pay money to do that. But that's just to show you where that is. This is the sponsored product. So your book could appear here. If you really know your comps, you're going to have a successful ad campaign. If you don't know your comps and you're just putting in a bunch of general keywords, you're not going to have a successful campaign. So again, as I said, doing the positioning study is really setting you up for success in a big way for a long time, and you will not regret taking the time to do this, because you're going to save time and money and be more successful in the things you do to support your book as a publisher. So let's just jump down to, we've found, you know, our trim size, our page count, our specs. We've looked at a lot of potential categories and explored them and see where the fit is. And we've hopefully established at least 10, and I'm saying at least, the more the merrier, comparables and competitors that are worth understanding, because your book will be impacted as you position it in this marketplace. So then you're going to brainstorm on titles and subtitles and series titles based on what you learned in your research. And I love a good brainstorm. You may love your title that you have in your head, but do this exercise, because it will undoubtedly either confirm that you've got a great title or lead you to something that is more fitting for the virtual bookshelf that you're going to compete on. And one thing to understand is that people are looking at book titles on much smaller screens now, because we do a lot of online shopping. We do it on our phones and our tablets. So with that in mind, you need to really make sure you look at the other titles for your comps and see what the trends are in titles. That's important. And every genre and every subgenre is different in that regard. So let's make sure that you do that, and also list every possible keyword. Now, during the process of doing the research, you should have been writing down the keywords that you were coming across, and hopefully you did that. If not, you can always go back because you'll have saved the link to those product pages, and you'll have looked at them on multiple online retailers, and you'll have a collection of great keywords. And again, those keywords you'll use later when you go to run ads. And when you upload your book, you only get 7 on Amazon, and you want to use the most effective keywords and keyword strings, which are like categories, when you upload your book. And your positioning study will have that all ready for you, so you don't have to go, oh, keywords, what the heck do I enter here? Then the last thing I recommend, and I don't have time to show you this site, but is to go to a site called Canva is what I use. And I've got a list of some of these resources that you can use right here. Go to Canva and mock up your book cover. I am not a cover designer. I am not someone who knows how to use graphic design things like Adobe. Very minimally, my team lets me touch Adobe only for editorial edits. But if you go to Canva, you can actually click there's 3 different types of ebook covers, and they have the elements laid out, and you can play around with images, you can play around with cover titles and subtitles and series. Make sure all those elements fit, and kind of create a couple of mock-ups that you like to show to your cover designer, because then you're going to save time and money and miscommunication if you can just get to a point where you have something to show them. And it's going to show you what your title looks like. Sometimes titles are so long, or subtitles are so long, and you have to edit them down because, again, we're looking at covers in really, on small screens. So Canva is a great tool for that. It's absolutely free. And then Goodreads has some great lists. We've got Google Trends for researching your keywords, and the bestseller list. And I also recommend for researching your audience that you go to the organizations that are specific to your genre. RWA was one that I mentioned, right? Romance Writers of America. There's Science Fiction Writers of America, there's nonfiction associations, there's mystery associations, there's international thriller associations. So just Google and find out what those organizations are, and find out what audience research they've done to help you in your book positioning study. So I want to thank you for listening in on my talk, and I hope you've tweeted. You still have a moment. There's at Publish Me to tweet to enter our contest. Just tweet something you learned or an interesting fact that you heard, and we'll put you in our contest for 3 months of Publish for free. And also right in the middle, you'll see the code IAF for Indie Author Fringe 2017. That code will give you 1 year of Publish for 40% off the monthly rate, and it's only $79 for the year then. And you get access to all of the tools that I mentioned to write, publish, distribute your book, market it with our innovative book template. I hope that you will write down this URL. You can go there, put in your email, and download the template, which will go over all the elements that I talked about and describe them for you in a way that it'll jar your memory, and you can use that always to do your book positioning studies for each of your books. And I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for listening. Take care.